righty, we are on, and welcome everyone to the AM 1150 Garden Show. It is a lovely day out there so far, a little chilly, but it's going to be another sunny day, I think, Don.
It is, Ken, and sunnier now that my headphones are working.
Yeah, there you go.
I can hear you.
You can see clearly now.
I can see clearly now.
Your headphones work.
My headphones work. Look it is a beautiful day. We've got some weather coming up, though. We'll talk about that next week. It's going to start to get a little chillier, but still, it's pretty darn mild for this time of year.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's -5 this morning, somewhere around there, which isn't too bad. And next week, they're saying maybe -10, -12, something like that at night, that would be actually fairly normal.
Well, they say that, but not in God's country, Rhonda Crescent. Rhonda Crescent only got -3 last night. So anyway,
you got the 2 degrees. You got the 2 degrees on us.
I know. Let's do the tips and plants of the week.
All righty.
I got a feeling. I'm not sure. Was this last week's? Make sure you clean any used containers you use for your seedlings, for your new seedlings. That was, good. I got a new one. Make sure you clean any used containers that you might be using for planting seedlings. You don't have to clean them if it's certain situations, but when you're planting seeds, you got to have clean stuff.
Yep.
Plant of the week is the prayer plant, the Marantha leucanera. Interesting.
Leucanera,
yeah. There's not a lot of species in that genus.
No, but it's a really good one.
It is.
It's a cool plant.
There you go.
House plant.
We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you betcha. All right, I also have a tip and a plant, and my tip of the week is that it's time to start checking out some classes online. This year, with the COVID thing, everything is going online, so you can pick up your classes without even leaving your living room, and it all starts today. And actually, today, if you go to growercoach.com and go online on the webinar section, and you can tune in. Today, we're doing our session on right plant, right place, which is critical for 2 things, landscape design and also for maintenance, because it's what makes all the world of difference when it comes to maintenance. All right, my plant of the week this week is the Epiphyllum oxypetalum, which again is the orchid cactus. This is the night blooming, white flowering, incredible, one of the most incredible flowering plants that there is. And I just launched my video on YouTube that you can check out, and just because this is something I've been putting together for a while, and it's a good one. If you haven't seen that, you should have a look at that. So just go to YouTube, Grower Coach on YouTube.com. There you go. That's my tips and plans for this week.
Fabulous, Ken. And I'll tell you, that night blooming orchid cactus is something else. You were generous enough to give me a plant last summer, and that puppy bloomed in the middle of the
you
summer.
got one.
I got 2 blooms off it.
Holy
and gorgeous. They don't last very long, but you get your money's worth.
It's about anticipation. It's like, we talk about tree peonies being short bloomed because they're about maybe 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
You might get, I think I got about 8 days out of one time, maybe 9 because of cool temperatures outside. But these orchid cactuses, depending on the variety, some of them will last for a week, some a couple days, and this one only lasts for one night.
Yeah.
But that's why they invented cameras.
I'll tell you, it was a beautiful thing, a sight to see, and you could actually watch it open.
Yeah. It'd be nice to do a time lapse on one of those.
It would. That would be one that would be an easy time lapse.
Yeah.
Rather than taking 2 days to open, it takes about
surprising that
an hour.
Yeah, it's 7 at about say 6:37 p.m. It starts to kind of look like it's doing something, and it just puffs right up, and then you're thinking, wow, something's going to happen. And within, by probably 8 o'clock, it's actually start to open a little bit, and by 9 o'clock, it's pretty much fully open. And, they just naturally bloom at night because they're pollinated by bats.
Oh, there you go. That's why they open at night?
Yeah.
What about the Oenothera? There's an Oenothera that...
Missouriensis, yeah.
Is that the one that opens just like...
Yeah. It's a huge yellow bloom, and it's low to the ground.
Well, Ken, I'm going to show you during the break. I've got a picture of one. It opens. You can watch it open in like 10 seconds. The flower opens up, and it opens up as soon as it gets dark at night.
Yep.
and then that bloom is shot.
That's why they call it evening primrose.
And then in the morning, it's shot. And the foliage looks like a dandelion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
weird.
one.
Weird.
It's they call it Oenothera missouriensis.
Well, I want to get one.
Yeah, super drought tolerant and good plant. Some of the Oenothera group are really weedy, and the taller ones can get a foot or 2 feet high, or even up to. I think there's a really tall one that gets about 30 inches tall. But the missouriensis stays shorter to the ground, and it's like a mounding plant, and it's a beautiful thing. But it's like a desert plant. It lives in really tough, dry conditions.
Well,
it's a good one.
We got tough, dry conditions here. We don't put the water on them.
You betcha.
Well, there you go. It's the day length is we are now getting to be, our days are starting to get longer as we speak, and we're 33 minutes now longer. So we're over half an hour longer than what we were on December 22nd.
We're practically there.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting a half an hour longer. Now, I don't know whether the half hour comes in the morning or the half hour comes in the evening, or if it's 15 minutes each. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was wondering that because it seemed like to me that it was still getting darker in the morning, even like a week ago. Like it seemed like at 7 a.m. it was sort of getting light, and now it's 7:30. But the days are actually getting longer, so it must be trimming off the end of the day more than the beginning of the day. But that's just me. I could be a little bit weird.
Well, we'll check on that, Ken. Very important information. We'll check on that.
Yeah.
Because
what would we do?
We got to know this stuff. And so I've got the site up now, and sunrise on January 19th, which is today, 7:46. Okay, and sunset was 4:31. Now, 7:46 this morning. On January 16th, it was 7:48. So there's 2 minutes there, difference in 4 days. And then the sunset is 4:31 tonight. 4:31. It'll set, and it was 4:27. So there's 4 minutes there.
Oh, so it is sounding like it's maybe a minute or so earlier in the evening.
Well, my brain's fried now. I can't look at any more of that because it's too much figuring to me. Ciphering, too much ciphering.
Let's just not worry about it and just get up tomorrow and have our coffee like normal.
250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. We're having fun. It's the garden show. I don't think too many people are out there in the garden right now. However, maybe you are. It's a beautiful day. You can go out there and do some tidying up and whatnot. So you could be doing some things in the garden. It's going to get mild again. The interesting thing, Ken, is that the days are quite warm in the daytime. It is freezing at night. And as we come up into this little bit of a cooler time in a week or 10 days, the daytime temperatures will be below freezing, but not much. Not terribly.
No, it's the night. It's the nights you really have to watch more than. Well, I guess either way. What I always said was that if the temperatures stay cold, if it's -10 at night and +2 in the day, that's not too bad. No. But if it's -10 at night and -10 in the day, that's bad. That's consistently cold around the clock.
That's right. I don't think the plant material's suffering this year. We do have a call, and Ariel's on the line, so we're going to talk to Ariel first. But we'll talk about, is this warm weather going to affect the plants?
Yep.
Good morning, Ariel. You're on the air.
Hi. Good morning, Don and Ken.
Good morning.
I was looking out at my helleborus the other day, and I noticed the little bird had flew into the window, and I was wondering, I sent you some pictures, Don, and I don't know whether I had the right number, if you have a text.
Oh, that was you. I know. I've contacted Dan, but he doesn't have a cell phone, so I can't send him the pictures on my cell phone. I've got to email them to him. So and I neglected to do that. So Dan's going to be on the air, and I will tell him I have a bird for him to look at. This is a dead bird, right?
Yeah, and you know what? These little birds come, and they there's flocks of them that come on the maples, and they run around all over the maples, and they're eating whatever they're eating. And I'd love to know what they are. They're tiny. They're only 4 and 4.25 inches long from head to toe. I mean, head to bottom feather. If I knew, I don't know if Ken's a birder or not, but
yeah. Did you send me a picture as well, or?
Well, I didn't have your number, dear.
Can you email it?
Oh, I could email it.
I'll just send it to you, Ken.
Oh, here
I'll send it to Ken. The technology is incredible.
Yes,
that we have here.
Yes, it is. And
crazy.
and I have to email it to myself if I took it with my phone, I have to sort of email it to myself, and then I get it in my email.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I was just wondering on my hellebores, when do I chop off those leaves? Because the hellebores are starting to think it's springtime and they're just about ready to bloom again.
Yeah, they unfortunately, you're going to have to be a little cautious here when this temperature changes in the next week. Because I went through this 3 years ago when we had that really warm January, and then February hit and it got really cold. And even though my hellebores, it snowed about a foot, so, I thought they were well protected and everything. But I lost, I think, about 4 hellebores, and I had 2 or 3 that I thought were dead, and they came back. But it's just a sad thing. So and that was the year actually Don was actually covering his hellebores and protecting them, which was really good. So just because of that, their eagerness to get going early is sometimes, their fault, and that's where problems happen. So I would say that, keep an eye on the weather forecast, and when it looks like it's going to drop, I would do something to protect those plants. And just leaving that old foliage on is fine, because they are utilizing that foliage on some level, whether it's there's sugar stored in the stems, or they need those leaves on at this time. But in the springtime, you can trim them off once it warms up, and, hopefully you'll be able to unbury them, or if you cover them maybe with a box full of insulation or something. I think
I did that too a couple of years ago at Don's suggestion too on the radio, and they definitely, it helped.
Yeah, for sure. So,
well, thank you very much, guys.
Okay, thanks, Ariel.
Okay, bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, now we're gonna take a short break here, Ken. Yep. We've got Dan Bruce coming on later in the hour. He's got a surprise entry this time. It will be a Scottish botanist, but we don't know who it is until he gets here, which is keeping me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah,
yeah. And then I'll email him this picture of the bird too, unless you, the ornithologist sitting next to me, knows.
Yeah. Out of the 7 birds I know, it actually looks very familiar to me. But I'll have to.
Pretty. It's a very pretty bird. Yeah. It's a dead bird, but it's a pretty bird.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the window. Actually, that's what happened. It hit Ariel's window and succumbed to the head injury. We're going to take that break, and we'll be right back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Well, we are back. Had to get organized here because it was so sudden coming back, but that's okay.
So sudden.
So sudden. But, Ken, we're going to go back to the phone lines, and we're going to be talking to Andrew. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, my daughter has a house on Rutland Road North, and there is sumac in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been trying for years to get rid of it with no luck. I'm just wondering, do you have any ideas?
Is this a native sumac, or is it one that was planted there?
It's native. I think it's in the whole area.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, well, root barriers to keep it from coming into the yard if it's creeping in, say, from wild areas.
Yeah.
And so that's where you actually, dig a trench and put in a barrier, which can be like aluminum flashing, or it could be some of the plastic root barrier. So there's a few different products available. And then the most common way of getting rid of it is actually just digging it all out by hand, which is a real pain. The roots are really quite big. They're almost like underground branches, and every single piece of them will grow. So it is a challenge for sure.
Okay, I'll give that a try again.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And, there are some, you can contact, possibly some of the weed companies and see if they have maybe a product or something they might be able to use for that. But that would be probably the way to go, is to investigate a couple different options and then give it a shot.
Okay, thank you very much.
All righty. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
250-862-2525 to get through to us today on the AM 1150 Garden Show. It's kind of a cloudy, overcast day, but there's no snow on the ground, and it didn't freeze terribly last night. But what do you think, Ken? Do you think... I know last year we had a real cold February after a relatively mild stretch, and that got the peach tree buds. A lot of peach trees got nailed last year. Crops were very poor and sporadic. Same with the cherries up at the cherry orchards.
Apricots were really bad.
And the apricots were bad.
Yeah.
So that could be an effect of this mildness because the trees just, they get caught off guard in February when it's been so mild all winter. They think, oh, well, here we go. We're out of the blue, and then bingo, we get cold. So. But I don't think there's any tragedies going to happen out there. I mean, I remember a few years ago that cold snap we got in October, November, got the Weigelas and got a lot of those plants that were a little bit sensitive going into winter.
Yeah.
But I don't think
there's 3 years ago, that the really bad one was 2 or 3 years ago when it was, like I say, January was just like this. It was mild, nothing to it. And then we got into the first week of February and it went to minus 22 or 24, whatever it was. It was cold. And then it stayed cold right through until the beginning of March. It was just brutal. And that did in all the climbing roses and all the tea roses. And,
right.
It was a big dieback. There were trees, like even cedar trees, that suffered from severe sort of frost and desiccation injury. Here and there around town and over on the Kelowna Gulf and
that was a few years ago, and some of those sequoia dendrons kind of got battered around a bit.
Yeah, they really suffered.
Yeah, they're still showing ramifications from that.
Yeah, they may or may not recover totally. And even those Excelsa cedars that go along the road, they were all suffering as well.
They were.
So,
That's right. So that's the kind of thing that we can expect on a year where it doesn't stay steadily cold through the year. The trees get a little confused. The shrubs get a little confused. Possibly you might have some bulbs emerging a little early and might get nipped on the tips, that sort of thing. Yeah, but nothing tragic. It's not, we're good.
We'll wait and see till we get there.
I'd rather have
this. This could be the year we get to minus 40.
Just about passed out there.
Yeah, you never know that polar vortex, if it comes down.
We've heard about that polar vortex coming down, eh?
Yeah.
There was some on the news.
I think it's mostly down east. Like we'll get a blast here in the next couple of weeks, but it's like I say, so far what I could see is it's mostly that minus 12.
Right.
Maybe minus 14 or so, which isn't really too bad. For us, that's within our range. We're in the zone 5 here in the valley, and zone 6, sort of where Don lives, he's closer to zone 6. He's closer to the lake.
Yeah.
And the lake effect warmth keeps that area a little bit warmer. So zones 5 and zone 6. Zone 5 is sort of that minimum temperature, like cold of about minus 20 or so. And so, we can go right to minus 20 and still be considered normal for this valley. We just really like it when it's warmer.
Right. And what you've often said, too, I've used this so often, I plagiarize you quite a bit. It's not how cold it gets, how long it stays cold.
Yeah.
And, okay, so here we go. January 17th to January 30th. Here are the nighttime cold temperatures, coming up. -2, -3, -3, -6, -6, -11 next Friday, -9, -9, -10, -10, -9, -7, -8, -7. That's up to January 30th.
Yeah,
so that's
not bad.
Not bad.
No.
Now the daytime highs are 6, 4, 6, 3, 0. -2, -4, -3, -4, -5, -4,
now
-3.
write that down.
-3, -3.
And let's see what it actually becomes. Because, they're good for a couple days. Like a real, an accurate weather forecast is good for probably 3 to 5 days, I would say,
Not when they had the weather ship.
Yeah.
When they had the weather ship, it was all cool,
Well, then
they just say there's a storm coming, and it came.
Yeah.
Now that's all computerized, and they don't know what they're doing. Well, I think I'm wrong there.
Yeah.
You bet. 250-862-2525 to get through to us today. We've got Dan Bruce coming on another 15 or 20 minutes. Dan will be with us talking about his latest Scottish botanist. We're doing Scottish botanist. I think after we run out of them, we might be going to somebody else, maybe some French botanists or some English botanists or some Irish botanists. I mean, there was botanists in all societies, Anyway, 250-862-2525 to get through. And guess what we've got? We got a special guy coming on here, and it is Stuntman Steve. Good morning, Steve.
Well, good morning, Don. Good morning, Ken. How are you guys?
We're well.
Good, thanks. Yeah.
Good. So, talking about this, if we can touch on climate change. As you know, I'm involved in the wine industry, and the wine tour is a part of it. We need that -8 for 3 consecutive days for ice wine. And as you know, we had a couple of scares over the last couple of years of doing late harvest for ice wine, and it's a financial risk and a financial cost if it's not harvested in that envelope of time and in that envelope of temperatures through Environment Canada, because it is a trademark iced wine. So given the warm temperatures and the fluctuation, and especially what's been happening, with the reports of orange juice going up because of what's happening with the climate change affected both in Florida and California, do you see us hopefully getting a crystal ball harvest?
Well, we did. You missed the window back in October.
Yes.
I mean, that was perfect for you guys.
It was. We had that early. That's right. I remember we had that snowfall.
Yeah.
We had that cold. Yeah.
Yeah, froze like heck.
It did, and I think that some of the vineyards, to my knowledge, it was a bit too early, and they rolled the dice because the more concentrated, as you know. But now you get into a situation, and again, maybe one time, Don and Ken, maybe you can have a vineyard on and actually talk about
we should.
The science of ice wine.
That would be good. If you if you have somebody in mind, let us know, and we will make the invite.
I will definitely email you both. Yes, I have a couple of vineyards.
We'll put the invite out because that is fascinating. What happens this year, I think, is that heavy frost we had in October I'm not an expert on this, but it could have caused some degradation to the fruit back then, that all this mild weather, fungi, botrytis, things might have got into the fruit, along the way here.
That's what I'm hearing. And sorry to interrupt you, that's exactly what I'm hearing through, lack of a better word, grapevine. But that's what I'm hearing also with general media. So, given the economic impact, both in tourism through the wine industry and them being growers and stuff like that, and us relying so much on that harvest. I just found it quite interesting.
I think it was missed opportunity for people last fall because even though, like you say, you like to let it go a little longer,
right?
But a person has to look. Okay, it's freezing now.
Yeah,
the grapes could degrade because of this frost. And then we might, I think pulling the trigger back then might have been a good plan. And maybe some of them did.
Well, maybe I think some of them did, but it's also, like you said, there's a great science between the concentration of sugar content because, as you know, like a drop makes, at 34 to 37 pounds, this makes up a 375 mil bottle, where the average wine bottle is anywhere from 4 to 7 pounds of grapes. So high risk, low yield. And, of course, they pick at night around 10 at night till 7 in the morning because the concentration of cold weather. But anyways, I didn't mean to blindside yet. I just kind of threw it out there as, you guys as being growers and everything. And
well, let's do that, Steve. Let's have some expert on. We Ken and I are both what we call generalists, and we know just enough to be dangerous.
The story of my life.
Yeah.
Well, listen, keep up the good. And I really love the story of the Scottish. The gentleman who tells. I was listening.
Dan.
Great stories. I love that. And the birding is also I find fascinating. So I think your garden show it has this beautiful I seem to be using a lot of metaphors. With it has a great root to it.
Through the grapevine, it has a great root.
Yeah.
And that's great, Steve.
My call, Joe.
Well, we love you. Take care.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Steve. Bye-bye.
And on that note, that lovely note, we're going to take a short break and invite your calls, 250-862-2525. We'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. Yes, we are back. Interesting day. The frost was pretty heavy on the windows this morning when I got out in the car.
Yep.
And, of course, I'm always kind of 1 minute too late getting here, so I wanted... Well, no, I'm never
You're right
late,
on time.
but I'm right on time. I don't give myself a lot of time is what I'm going to...
No.
So I go out there, and the windows are just frost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, I don't have time to take the frost off the windows, so the windshield, of course, I can just put on the window washers, and this amount of frost, it cleans them up. Frosts up pretty quick after, but it's frost. And then the side windows, I just roll them down so I can see out the windows. I do scrape the rear view mirrors off just to make sure. And then I check up and down Rhonda Crescent, see if anybody's coming. And then I just back out. I'm safe. And then now I'm on the way. I can go forward. But when I come into an intersection, I got to roll the windows down again, look out. That was frosty this morning. It was frosty.
Oh, yeah.
So a person now has to say, okay, let's go out 10 minutes early so that you can
start it up and let it warm
get
up
her
a little
going.
bit.
Yeah, there
you betcha. All righty. So, yeah.
So, Ken, what else do you think might be problematic with the weather? Being so mild, and it's bound to get a little bit chillier as time goes on. What else kind of gets hurt?
Well, we talk about the roses and mulching roses, and typically that's done around the beginning of November, late October, early November. But normally we get winter after that. And this year we sort of had winter in October as it hit there just for that little blast. And then it came back to normal again. And then not much since then. So literally, this is still a good time to mulch your roses. Like we're actually talking right now that in a week or two it's going to be getting cold. So this is the time. The roses are fine with this mild weather we've had. And we've had a chance to get some good hard frosts on them, so that helps them go dormant. But this last little bit of protection, just as we were talking about the hellebores there with Ariel about the protecting those plants, because they start shooting up really early, and of course they just freeze right off when it gets really cold. So you have to watch that sort of thing, and it's actually just getting to the point now where it's time to check these things and add a little extra protection.
Well, and that's something we can keep an eye on. I've got I should email you my latest fig protection. I've got it all lathed in now and ready. This is the latest I've done because I just haven't needed it, Got a little frosty there in October, but not enough to hurt the fig. Yeah. I think I got to -5, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't, it's cold for that time of year, but really not anything that's going to hurt that fig. It just put it to sleep real quick. And then now I got the cover on there, and I've got the little electric cord in there just in case it gets like silly weather, like -20 and that sort of thing. But no, I've done that. Everything's kind of put to bed. I'm not too concerned about anything in the yard. My banana is well covered, and not as covered as I normally cover it, but I think it's covered enough. And I put a plastic bucket over it, and then covered the bucket in mulch. And the reason that I put the bucket over it is because the banana tends to rot if you just put mulch down.
Yeah, there's a few plants that do that. I know with the Gunnera is similar, and I found that just because we had some Gunnera plants at a property where, they're not really hardy for this area, and they're those giant leaf plants. And, the one year we just covered them in a sort of that straw material, and they definitely just rotted. So, we realized at that point that's probably what we should have done, was had a large Tupperware container or something to put over top of the main crown of the plant, and then bury that with straw. That would have been much better. Yeah. Much better idea.
So every week I have now my new little part of the garden show is today's genus. What genus are we going to talk about today? And when we come back after the main break, the break at 9 o'clock, I'm going to talk about Dracaena, the Dracaena family.
Yeah.
And it's a big family, 120 species.
And now includes Sansevieria.
Yes.
That is very strange.
Yeah. It's
who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk? But you can see it in a way. You can, in the blossom. You always, like you were saying, you always look at the bloom.
Yeah.
And what the bloom, it's the blossoms that connect the families and the genus. So it's kind of
exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, we will have Dan Bruce coming on fairly quickly here with us, and that will, that will put that 15 minutes or so talking about our wonderful Scottish botanists. What is a botanist, Ken? A botanist is somebody who
studies botany.
And botany is the study of plants, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And these are plant hunters. They back in the day, what a beautiful time of history for a botanist to be looking for new plants. Eh?
Where almost everything you look at is new.
It's brand new, yeah. But they are discovering every year. They're discovering a dozen or so new plants.
I would even say it's even more than that.
More than that, and certainly new animal and insect species.
Yep, all the time.
And maybe even the odd new genus, who knows?
Well, now they're actually, just as we were just talking about how Sansevierias used to be Sansevierias, and now they're in the Dracaena family. So, that's the one thing that they're identifying, and I think it's through the, the use of DNA to trace the families.
They're getting sharper on that.
Genomes and how they're related.
Yeah. I want to talk, too. I'm going to make a note because we want to talk later on after we finish with Dan, and we've got a caller online too here. We're going to talk to her. Talk about the American chestnut and what they're doing, trying to reintroduce the American chestnut after that big blight problem that happened at the turn of the century years ago. And fascinating stuff. And that's all. It's all talking about genetics. We're going to go to the phone lines here because we've got Sally joining us. Good morning, Sally.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We were looking at, when you were talking about roses, we were looking at our roses, and they're starting to push. Now, we've tidied up the garden. We don't have any leaves. You were talking about mulch. What else can I put over them to protect them?
Are these roses, Sally, are these hybrid tea roses? What type of roses?
They're minis.
They're miniature roses?
Oh, miniatures.
Yeah.
Probably not a problem, but if they're miniature roses, if you had some 5-gallon pots or 2-gallon pots, perhaps all you need, put the pot over top of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or a Tupperware, like one of those totes, totes that you have sometimes. You have a spare tote that you're not using. You can just put that over just through the coldest spell.
That may be all that's necessary.
And this is in the case of miniature roses because they are quite cold hardy. But in the case that they are pushing a little bit too fast, then, you might be able to give them a little extra protection from that hard desiccating cold.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Sally, it sounds like your microwave has got something warmed up for you. So.
How about poached eggs?
Oh, poached eggs sounds good. Making us hungry. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for the call.
Than's for calling.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye now. So, we're approaching that quarter to the hour, and probably Dan Bruce coming on fairly quickly here, and that's what we'll do. Do you want to?
I did look up that bird.
Yes.
And it sounds like it's an American goldfinch, is what it sounds like. So, or looks like, sorry. I'm not sure what it sounded like.
Did you hear it tweet? That's a dead bird, Ken. How's he going to tweet?
So it didn't really match into my seven birds that I know. But, looking it up was helpful, and I kind of narrowed it down, and with your help there.
I'll verify
that was a
it
great
too.
picture.
I'll verify it, too, for Ariel. We're going to email it to Dan Bruce.
Yep.
And we can do that as we're talking to Dan. But Dan is on the line, but we're going to say a quick hello to Dan, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to talk about his latest introduction of a Spanish, not a Spanish botanist, a Scottish botanist.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's what we'll do when we come back with more AM 1155. Okay, let's get right to it. We're going to invite Dan Bruce to the show. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Don. Good morning, Ken.
Morning, Dan.
And what surprises do you have in store today?
Well, the wind is not blowing.
Oh,
That's a
good.
bit of a surprise.
Yeah, that was quite a wind we had the other night, that's for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Did you lose anything? Did anything come down?
Well, there's been so much destruction here with snowfall that there's nothing left to destroy.
There you go.
A ice cream bucket got blown off and went rattling around, which set the dogs into action. But other than that, nothing.
Dan, what have you got up your sleeve today with the botanists?
Well, for the doings of the Scots in the plant world, a character that is very much alive and well still today, Ian Prance, who has had quite a career. It's not over yet. He was born actually in England, in Brandeston, Suffolk, but was taken at a very early age to the Isle of Skye, where his father was part of the Home Guard during the Second World War. He was christened Gillian Prance. His mother was very, very Scottish, and that is a Scottish name, but it became confused with the English girl's name, Gillian. So he, with everybody's agreement, sort of reverted to Ian.
Yeah, can't have that. Can't have it sound like a girl.
1937 he was born. His first, he went through a fairly ordinary education and so forth, but his first venture into botany and plant collecting was in 1960 in Turkey, which is a very interesting plant country because of the terrain. Very, very similar to parts of the Okanagan. And you may remember I showed you that mountain ash tree growing here that was actually collected by the Turkish Ministry of Forests.
Yes, we did a video on that one, yeah.
Yes, and it's survived everything so far. Gillian Prance went on. In his career, he joined the staff of the New York Botanic Garden in 1963. And for many years did field work in the Brazilian Amazon rainforest, particularly in the 1970s. He and his wife moved to Brazil, and he did plant collecting, research, preservation of museum specimens, plants. Did a lot of studies also on the native Brazilian peoples living in the Amazon. Got along very well with them and was able to share their lifestyle to quite a great extent.
Did he turn them on to kilts?
No, but
okay.
They turned him on to blowguns.
Oh, there you go.
And,
wow.
He did a number of things in the Amazon, but one of the more significant was the documentation of the complete life cycle of the giant water lily.
Oh, yes.
Is that the one like at Kew?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Victoria amazonica is its scientific name, and named, of course, in honor of Queen Victoria. But he documented the whole incredible life cycle of this plant, where it grows from seed, and the seed is the pollination is done by beetles. So the flower opens, very sweetly scented white flower. The beetles fly across the areas where this is growing, and they go down into the flower to get the nectar. The flower closes and traps them for a period of, I think it's 24 hours. And the flower opens again, at which time it's changed color. The beetles are released. They fly off and do the same thing again. The beetles they get trapped regularly.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the mechanism ensures that the beetle does not return to the same plant. The flower color has changed.
Right. Do they start out all white and then turn color after that?
Yes.
Cool.
When the flower opens for the second time, it's a sort of a dark maroony purple color.
Yeah. It's interesting.
So
he's still alive.
He's still alive, and after in 1988, he received an offer. While he was in New York, he received an offer of the directorship of Kew Gardens in England. And the New York people were upset by this. They tried to convince him to stay, offered to up his salary, all sorts of benefits and so forth, but he decided that he would accept the Kew position.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of an issue there, because the director of Kew is a government post, and it's one of those posts in Britain that has to have the approval of the monarch. So he is sitting in New York, having been made this offer, but he cannot accept it until the Queen has given her nod of approval.
Of course.
Wow.
So he was director of Kew from 1988 until 1999, and he was knighted in 1995, so he is now Sir Ian Prance. The government of Brazil gave him the Order of the Southern Cross, and the Japanese government gave him the Order of the Rising Sun. So he's internationally acclaimed and highly respected.
Wow.
Yeah.
And as director of Kew, of course, he's known to all botanic gardens.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, at that time, at any time, Kew grows about between 40 to 45,000 living specimens. And the herbarium, which is dried, preserved specimens at Kew, are now in excess of 6 million specimens.
Wow. Well, I tell you, and just to tie it in 2021, our plan is to take a trip to Chelsea Flower Show and get to Kew Gardens again. So there's a good thing. If somebody wants to, we'll get to meet him. We could actually say hello.
Go look at all 6 million of those samples.
Yes.
So what you'd have to do is give Ian the heads up and say, Don Burnett and Donna are bringing a group of people to see the gardens. And you could just say we want to give. We'll just say hello.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Dan, we've got about 1 minute left here to finish this off, and we do appreciate you giving us the insight into Ian Prance, and that's, have I pronounced it properly? Prance, Prance.
That's correct. Yes.
Hey, beautiful. Well, that's going to be nice. So we've added. That's the 3 we've done so far.
Yes.
And we got a number more coming up.
We have a number more. So I will.
And these are all. Sorry to interrupt, but these are all. Highlighted at the Fintry.
Yes, they will be. in the form of a small exhibition with panels on each one of these characters.
Cool. Well, there we go, and we just always appreciate this segment, and we'll look forward to next week's. Is it a surprise again?
It will be a surprise.
Okay.
I haven't decided which one.
Another surprise entry? Well, that's good. Yeah, we like surprises here. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Right.
All right.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. We'll see you again next week.
You will.
Take care.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, and so we are counting down. We're right at the 9 o'clock time frame here. We got to stop for the news and the break and all that stuff, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. And we're back for the second blistering hot half of the Garden Show this morning on the this is show total number 1779. It started in 1983, and this is January 16th version right here on AM 1150. And we did the tips and plants of the week, but I'll tell you, I want to just talk about my genus of the week, Ken. The Dracaena. 120 species, approximately. Trees, succulent plants. It's, I won't go into all the families that it belongs to and whatnot, but the name Dracaena is derived from the Romanized form of the ancient Greek Dracaena, which means female dragon, and that's why you get that Madagascar dragon tree.
Yes.
I wondered where that came from. Madagascar dragon tree is one of the common Dracaenas that we see in the marketplace. I have one in the greenhouse.
The marginata type?
It's a color. It's got a color. I forget exactly the
Dracaena marginata, though. I think
it's a Dracaena marginata, but it's something because it's not the regular Dracaena marginata. The green. It's got some red in the leaf, and
I see.
It's a multicolor. It's like a variegated one.
Right.
So like there may be 120 species, but there's also a whole whack of varieties in those species.
I bet there's thousands.
The vastness of this thing is fabulous. The diversity is, as I've said many times, is what Ken and I just appreciate so much, is the diversity. It's confusing sometimes, and sometimes it's a little bit, mind-boggling that with all this stuff. But it's just fun because there's so much to learn. You'll never learn it all. And learning about these things. So that was my genus of the week, plant genus, Dracaena. I'm going to try and have one every week. I don't think we'll run out, can we?
No, never run out.
Never run out. We can't run out of those genuses. And it says here, and you said mentioned that Sansevieria is closely related and has recently been synonymized under Dracaena in the Kubitsky system. The Kubitsky system, let's just see what that is. That's the Kubitsky system. That's
method of identification.
Something like that. The Kubitsky system is a system of plant taxonomy devised by Klaus Kubitsky and is the product of an ongoing survey of vascular plants entitled The Families and Genera of the Vascular Plants and extending to 15 volumes in 2018. Well, there we go. We can talk about that at some point. One thing I'd like to know, Ken, we are really in the market for a worm bin. We want a worm bin so badly that we did have some information of a worm bin guy that Donna got off at a home show maybe about 10 years ago. It's no longer there. The website's down and everything. Do you have any idea where we can get a worm bin?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. The bin itself is easy because you can use just about any bin for a worm bin. But you need to get the worms. That's right. That's the key. And in the wintertime, it's a little bit harder, but it's something you have to think about. But yeah, I have a connection.
Have you?
Yep.
Okay. I will talk to you later about that.
Confirm that connection and then go from there.
Yeah. Because, Ken, we don't have in the Okanagan, we don't have a wet bin like the green bin. We should not be putting our orange peels and things like that in the garbage because it creates methane gas in the dump. Although our wonderful system out there, they've got the methane gas is being collected.
Harvesting it, yeah.
Harvesting it. And using it for heating various facilities.
But it's a major pollutant for sure.
Well, it is. It's a pollutant, and I guess it's contributing to climate change too as well. So methane is not a good thing. And putting all our scraps, our kitchen scraps, in the garbage is contributing. Now, down in Vancouver, and in particular in Sunshine Coast, where my sister lives, they have a bin, a special bin, just like we have our green bin, we have our garbage bin, we have our composting or our recycling bins. They have a little bin that they put their kitchen waste into.
Yeah. So
that's really advanced. It's a great thing. However, what they do on the Sunshine Coast, which we can't do here, it's illegal to do here, is have carburetors.
Yep.
Carburetors are illegal here. If you have a carburetor, you're breaking the law, folks. Because you're putting that into our sewer system.
Sewer treatment plant.
Sewer treatment plant, which is very sensitive to those things. We're very cognizant now of what we put down the drain, i.e. grease. Even when we don't do a lot of grease, of course, in our diet nowadays, but even a stir-fry pan, when you got there's some stuff left from the olive oil or whatever's left in the stir-fry pan. We take one of the little scraper things and scrape it into a bin, a can, and put it in the garbage. Now, that might even not be good. I don't know, but better in the garbage than in the sewer pipes.
Yeah, I've heard that it builds up and there's clogs that happen in the sewer systems from grease.
Yeah, it's a heck of an ugly job cleaning that up, too. Some human has to go in there and clean that junk out of there. So that's not the main problem, of course, is that it's causing disruption to the system. Anyway, that's it. That's all about what we need to be doing to stay above things. And back in the day, I mean, Ken, the dump was the dump. I mean, it was...
Everything went in.
Dad called it the nuisance ground. Nuisance ground. Take it out to the nuisance ground. It was a nuisance, so get rid of it. Bury it. And like that old fridge, bury it. That battery, bury it. Those old tires, bury it.
Oh, my God.
All that stuff. Everything got in the hole. And you know where the hole was? On KLO Road.
Yeah.
Where the college is.
Yep.
That was the hole.
That's funny. Where I grew up as well, there was the old landfill turned into the college there as well. I
wonder if that says something about... Yeah, anyway.
It's a useful land now. They're turning it from a nuisance ground into being an education ground.
Useful ground, yeah.
Yeah, a useful ground.
Now, so you're going to check on that composting thing. So my onions are doing well, Ken, and they're last year's seed, too.
Yep.
I ordered my onion seeds in October. So when they came in from Stokes, they had use before the end of 2020.
Ah, right.
So I was a little concerned. You know how onion seeds degrade. They're one of the seeds that we never did use them from year to year like we do tomato seeds and things like that. So I'm pleased to see there's quite a bit of germination. I don't know if it's 100%, but it said 90% germination on the package. But because it's last year's seed, it may have degraded.
Yeah, probably go down a little bit.
Yep. But anyway, so they're coming up pretty nicely. They'll be due in another 2 weeks. They'll be due for their first haircut.
Right.
And this year I covered them a little bit more than I normally do because last year I found them pushing themselves out of the ground, and so that all it was holding was maybe a one root into the thing in the bulb itself. And I was going around with a little spoon trying to bury them and saying, "Go back inside," but they are actually looking better because I covered them a little heavier this year.
Right.
Now, what isn't growing is some seed that Sal Caruso, that my favorite tomato that I use. I'm going to plant those pretty much that and some grape tomatoes. But that tomato is so great, and I wanted to get some going early. Mm-hmm. And I had saved some seed from last year's tomatoes. Unfortunately, not very successful. They're not germinating. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to get some seed from Sal.
Do a viability test, and just check them.
Yeah.
And see, float them in the water and let them soak and see if any of them sink. The sink ones are good.
Well, what I was concerned about, Ken, was the tomato I harvested was not totally ripe, and that might be a problem.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't matured.
Yeah. We're going to go to the phone lines, and because we can, and because we have Sandy on the line. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I'm good.
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 So I go up to Fintry when they have their fairs,
mm-hmm.
and there's a guy up there named Bud who does garlic products,
mm-hmm.
but he often brought his worm bins with him.
Yes, Bud the Worm Man.
So you should talk to Dan about who Bud is.
Yeah. Do you know Bud?
Yep.
Oh, Ken knows Bud, too.
Oh, yeah, because he brought him up so he could teach people about his worms, and you could buy worms from him.
Oh, wow. There you go. So maybe that's my connection. Because I do want to have a worm bin. We had a worm bin back in the day in the garden center.
Mm-hmm.
And we had one in our home, too. And they're fabulous. The worms do such a great job. They're clean. There's no odor. And you can put just about anything in there other than meat. It has to be vegetation type of stuff.
Yeah, you can feed him newspaper, too.
Newspaper. And, they'll eat anything.
But
Yeah, they're like goats. They'll eat anything.
Yep.
Yeah. And the little worm poops are good, too. The little droppings.
Get something out of it at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in the fall, I had something called a Candyland tomato plant.
Mm-hmm.
Candyland.
And it's a currant type tomato.
Okay.
And I took some cuttings of them and put them in a jar of water.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I still have 2 of them alive. I'm hoping that they will come through and I can restart those.
Yeah, they root really easily, don't they?
Well, they're having trouble. Those ones, the other ones seem to do pretty good. But,
yeah. Well.
But I've never had a currant type tomato before.
So they're really tiny, or
yeah, like your fingernail.
Wow.
They might be close to the original species
It's
tomato.
a very sprawly,
well,
delicate plant. It would look good in a planter because, it's pretty.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm looking forward to maybe having a look when you get some to fruition.
Yep, try to do that.
You bet.
Yeah. How's the flavor on those ones? Are they tasty?
I didn't get very many, just a couple of them. And they have more of a tart tomato taste than the sweet.
Interesting. Tart tomato. That'd be cool.
Anyhow, we'll let you know how it goes.
You betcha. And we always appreciate your call. You take care.
Good luck
Sandy.
with your worms.
Okay, Sandy.
Thanks,
take
Sandy.
care.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And on that note, we're at the quarter hour here. We're going to take a short break, 250-862-2525 to get through to us. If you want to join the fray today, you're sure welcome. Is there somebody welding outside, or is that sun? That's sunshine, Ken.
That would be the sun.
Sunshine. I almost had to put my welding gear on here. But we don't have to. So we're here, and we are anticipating your calls when we come back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. And we are back, and that is sunshine out there, Ken. It's poking through. I think West Bank's getting the brunt of it, which is good. But we got Dennis joining us. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Don and Ken. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year
All the best to you.
Thank you. I just have a little story here. I was delivering mail in rural Winnipeg many years ago, and there were quite a few farms on this street. This was about mid-December, and I come to this little farmhouse, and a little old Ukrainian woman comes walking out with a brown paper bag, and she says, "This is for you. This is for you." She says, and she gave it to me like she was giving me a family heirloom. And I thought, wow, I wonder what's in this bag. What do you think was in that bag? You have any guess?
Manure?
Cookies?
Oh no, something. No, it was a bag of garlic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I looked in the bag and I was kind of disappointed at the moment, of course, but and then not too long after I realized, wow, that was quite a gift that she was giving me, because it was a family heirloom to her.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a specific type of garlic.
Yeah.
Ukrainian garlic. I know there's many of them on the market now. They're different garlics. One of the things that I'm interested in is how to properly season garlic, like cure it, because our garlic is degrading. I need to learn better how to cure it properly, because our garlic in the middle of winter is pretty not good.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. We're gonna work on that.
Can you put garlic in the fridge to maintain it, keep it longer?
Well, we do that once we've cut it all up, and Donna chops it all up into little tiny cubes, and then puts it in a jar, and we keep it in the fridge.
Yeah, you can envision it right now. It was planted in the fall, so it's sitting in underground right now, likely partially frozen. So it doesn't mind that. It puts it in that suspended animation, so I'm sure it'd be fine.
Yeah.
There you go.
How long? When it's hard to find single cloves of garlic anymore. They usually come in a tube of 3 or something. And if I'm the only one in the house that eats it, so it's sometimes it sits around for quite a long time, and I find that sometimes they rot and get the little kernels get hard, but and other times they stay the same for like a couple of months.
Well, I think basically what you got going there, Dennis, is as I was saying, it's the curing. It's how they're cured, and there's methodology. I think maybe Dominic Ramponi could help us on that.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we'll do. We'll put the feelers out, because next year, I've got tons of garlic planted again, but I want to know how to cure it. I've been leaving it out in the sunshine like you do onions, because the onions seem to cure quite well that way. Anyway, we're going to work on that. Dennis, we always appreciate the call. We appreciate it.
Sounds good. When you talk to Dom, if you remember, tell him Dennis says hello.
Okay, Dennis, we will.
Okay,
take care.
Guys.
Appreciate the call.
Take care.
Bye-bye
Thanks
now.
for calling. Bye-bye.
And we've got Addie joining us. Good morning, Addie.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Excellent.
Morning, Addie. Good, thanks.
And we don't have much sun in West Kelowna.
Oh,
that's
too bad.
Very little. It's just, I know, it just looks like it should be, but it's not. We've got this great big gray cloud hanging.
Probably not paying your taxes or something.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's another story. Anyway, I planted, or I put a hyacinth bulb in, the suspended little containers. They come in, and the root or the water is not supposed to touch the actual bulb, and then it gets roots forming and everything else.
Yep.
Well, that's all happened, and now I've got this container that's full of white roots. Like, it is massive roots. Do I take it out, cut the roots off, and plant it in soil?
Well, you don't have to cut the roots off, but you can cut some of them off if you like. Either way, but it's just like as a normal bulb. What would happen if it was out in the garden is that it would have come through the winter and it would have shot up and bloomed and done its thing, and then the bloom finishes and the foliage continues to grow for a while, and it restores that bulb again for next year. So what you need to do at this point is the same thing. Remove the old blossom when it's finished blooming, and just keep the foliage going as long as you can. But yes, potting it into a pot, like a 6-inch pot possibly, where there's enough soil that you can put in over top of those roots. If you can get all the roots, that's fine. Just bury them all in soil. Or if there's just too many roots, then maybe you can trim them back by maybe try by half. I always like to keep those roots going if I can. And then plant them into a pot and just keep the thing growing as a like a house plant. They do like to grow cool if possible, so a little bit cooler.
Well, that's
but
what I
bright
started
light.
out. I started it out in December cool and left it in a cool, dark spot, and now I've just pulled it out. So it's just a little kind of a teardrop, upside down teardrop.
Oh.
And it's so I put it out into the light now, so it's going to, I guess, start. I should have pulled it out probably a little bit earlier, but I forgot it.
Yeah,
about it.
They sometimes like about 13 weeks of cold. So that's what's sort of a sweet spot, right? So
13 weeks. So, okay. So November, December, January. I guess we're almost there then.
Pretty
we're almost
close,
there.
yeah.
But it started to grow, so I just thought I would pull it out and put it out into the light.
And grow it cold. So, like, if you have a windowsill, you put it right on the windowsill so the pot is touching the glass. And that way the cool air from the glass and the coolness will get right into that pot and keep it cool. Because the thing with hyacinths have this tendency to blow out and they'll start flowering. This is how you can tell they're too hot, is that the foliage comes out and then the plant literally blooms right down inside the leaves. So you just see the flowers coming inside the leaves. It doesn't shoot up tall. And that's because they're too warm. So because they're blooming immediately instead of elongating and then blooming.
Yeah.
So
I've got one that's already blooming. I started it back in about September, I think, and it's blooming quite nicely. But I started it in a actual pot of soil. I didn't start it into the water. I started it in soil.
Right. That sounds good.
That one's already blooming. So, but I didn't know this one. I started in water because it was a brand new bulb. I hadn't had the bulb. It was given to me. So I thought I would follow directions and do what they asked me to do.
Yeah, that's been done for years and just growing them like that. But it's not always easy to regrow them. You can put them out in the garden, but to reforce them, it's sometimes a little tough. Addie, we've got to move on. We've got another caller coming in, but we always appreciate your call.
Okay, thanks much. You have a great weekend.
You too, dear. Take care.
Thanks, Addie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Yeah, and we're going to try and get another caller in. Mary is joining us before the break. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
I've been wondering about my kale. I always grow it in the same area because it's easily accessible in the winter when I harvest it. This year I seeded it, and I had all kinds of kale. And then toward late summer, I got these little white balls, and then the leaves became frosty and fell off, and about three-quarters of my crop died. And I thought it was the white butterflies maybe, but I never saw caterpillars, so I wonder what happened.
Well, Mary, first of all, I want to apologize because I've got that email that you sent me right in front of me, and I guess we haven't spoken about this, have we, Ken? And it's my fault. All my fault.
Yeah.
So now Ken's going to answer your question.
Yeah. Well, these kale are commonly infested by these like little white woolly sort of aphids. And what they do is they give off this sort of silvery powder that comes off of them, and it coats everything. And then there's little blobs of sap or sugar that come from the aphids that they excrete as they're sucking the juices from the plant. And that gets all stuck with this white powdery stuff, and it's quite common. And so what they do is their population grows and grows and grows until the plant just can't handle it anymore, and then the plant either collapses or something. So the regular blasting with a hard spray of water does work. It needs to be done like literally every time you're out in the garden. You just blast them, and if you can, what I used to use is I used a garden wand. It's called a garden wand, and it goes on the end of your hose, and it's about maybe a 2-foot or 3-foot long metal wand with a sprayer on the end of it, and to get underneath those plants and shoot up from underneath to wash the undersides of the leaves. And that, if you did that literally every day or so for a while, there's no aphids that can survive that. So a nice, good, hard spray on a regular basis, and that helps keep those aphids at bay. The other thing you can do is just grow them inside of a insect screen. So insect screens are available for gardens, and you can either cut them to size or shape. You can either make like a bag out of them that you wrap the plant in, or you can build a little frame like a box frame and just put your screen over that and place it right over your kale. Because kale get quite large, it has to be a fairly big sort of a box. But the insect screen works really good, keeps all the insects off. It's just you need to start with that screen first thing in the spring and maintain it right through the season. And I would recommend probably changing the location for that kale as well, because some of the aphids actually will overwinter on the kale's roots underground. And that means that they're going to be readily available to come up out of the ground to get on new kale next year.
Okay.
So
what, can I grow something different there?
Just about anything because the kale aphids will just get on kale basically. Well, they get on any cabbage family. So you could grow carrots or tomatoes or anything else there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I just wondered. Oh,
yeah,
I really thought it was the white flies that did it, but
yeah, they're really a pain. And now I find that they're so bad every year and bad for me, and I think a lot of people have that problem. So I just have to really get on that insect screen first thing in the spring so that they don't have a chance to catch up, and then maintain it throughout the season as much as you can. Keep the screen on, and that eliminates all those loopers like that white butterfly, and it eliminates all those pests. So.
But if the aphids are in the soil, then how can you prevent it with the screen?
It's just by alternating the location each year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, rotating.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best idea.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for sticking with us there on that. You betcha.
Well, I just wondered, and I don't want it to happen again.
Yeah, you betcha. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Okay, good luck.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And on that note, we're going to take a short break. Invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to us, and we'll be back with more AM 1150 Garden. We are back with you, and good thing, too, because otherwise you wouldn't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be nothing here.
It would just be dead air.
Dead air, which that's happened. I remember very early in the garden show back in CKOV days, back when we were on the air in 1983. I think it was about the 4th or 5th show. I was out of town. My brother, Al, dear Al, may he rest in peace. He came on to do this show, right?
Yeah. Emergency backup.
Emergency backup, and he had his notes. He had all his notes, and he got on there, and Greg Cooper was the man at the wheel at the time. He was behind the board, and Greg Al got going at the beginning and did his preamble and stuff, and there were no calls at that point, and he started talking away. And Greg had to use the washroom, so he went into the washroom, and all of a sudden, the speaker in the washroom, the monitor in the washroom went dead, and so Greg had to finish up really quickly and come running back to the board, and here Al was frozen. He was frozen solid. He just couldn't think of his name. He couldn't think of what to say. He'd run out of notes, and that was it. And so that was it. He said, I'll never do that again unless you're with me. I had the gift of the gab, and he had the brains, That's Al was the brains behind the operation, and I had the gift of the gab. And so we made a pretty good team at some point there. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 250-862-2525 to get through to Ken and I today. It's a beautiful winter day. It doesn't feel like winter, but it is a beautiful winter day. And we are going to get a little bit of cool weather coming up. In the meantime, though, if the ground's not frozen under my carrots, I'm going to dig some carrots.
Yeah,
I got carrots.
Well.
Yeah, the carrots are looking pretty darn good. They're small because it was a late seeding. I had about 5 carrot seedings and about 5 radish seedings last year. And the late radishes were fine, but the carrots were small. They're small, but they're edible. It's a nice single carrot.
We did about almost half a bin, just in solid carrots. So it was quite a mass, a lot. And I mean, I would say a lot, hundreds and hundreds. And then we would just go through and continuously harvest the big ones. And we did that the whole season, just harvesting only the big ones. And there was just tons of little ones. And they slowly all came on. And then by the end of the year, it was in October, I think we went out and harvested the whole works. And got quite a bit. I think, it's all relative. For us, it was a lot. We got 2 bags that were probably 20 pounds a piece or something like that. And they're so good. You just can't compare those fresh picked garden carrots. Yeah, fabulous.
That's right. It's like potatoes or corn right out of the garden.
Anything right out of the garden seems to be so much better.
A lot more sugar. Yeah, so you know the little thing you gave me some seed last year, the little white rutabaga kind of thing?
Yeah.
What was that?
Hakura.
Yeah.
Hakuri, is it Hakuri?
Whatever, it was
turnip,
good.
Yeah.
The only thing
turnip.
is, it's a turnip. It's sweet, beautiful eating. But the only thing is, I had radishes for 3 years in a row. I've had good radish crops.
Yep.
Not a maggot. And all of a sudden I put those in, and they got maggots.
Yeah.
Interesting, eh?
Yeah, I didn't.
I mean, I'm not complaining, Ken. I really enjoyed them.
It sounds like you're complaining.
No, I'm not complaining. I would never complain.
Yeah, I grew a bunch of those, and I didn't have any problem with any maggots or anything.
Well,
but
I think you sold. I think you gave me seed, and the maggots came with the seed.
I should have. Yeah, but I got to get the right radishes. You know, like I got to take your advice on varieties, because it seems like when you pick the right variety, it's just the way you went. Eh?
Yes, it's great. We've got Pam on the line joining us. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning. Good morning. Isn't the sunshine inspiring?
So you do have some sunshine. West Bank is not blessed. We are on this side blessed with sunshine.
It's blinding out there right now in my yard. It's pretty great.
I thought somebody was welding there for a minute out there. But
yes, exactly. I haven't seen shadows in a while, so I'm seeing very sharp shadows, which is kind of cool. Couple questions. I was out yesterday pruning a few things, and I kind of hesitated, thinking, it's supposed to get cold. When I say pruning, maybe it wasn't really pruning. It was cutting down like things like asters and chrysanthemums and like that. Is there anything that says I should leave those dead stalks standing until the bulk of the cold has passed, or is it okay to chop it down?
Not with most of all the perennials that are herbaceous like that they're literally, the tops are dead. They can just be removed at any time, either in the fall, during the winter, or even in the spring. So I do mine, most of mine, I'm just so busy in the fall, I usually just leave it. And then during the winter, when the weather's nice, I'll get out and do them a bit at a time through the winter. So most of those are fine. We talked about hellebores earlier with Ariel there, and just saying that they're an evergreen plant, so they're not really herbaceous. So because they have those big green leaves, I just leave those on as long as I can, and then in the springtime, when I do my spring cleanup, then I'll take off all those old leaves from last year and let new ones come on. So that's just that's just the difference. It's like lavender. They're also like an evergreen, so you can just leave them till spring, and in the spring cut them back really hard.
Yeah, I think for a number of years I have vacillated between calling myself a lazy gardener and not pruning in the fall when things are, when winter's coming, and then deciding to flip the coin and say, no, I'm not being lazy. I'm being a good steward. I'm going to catch all that snow, and I'm going to, give opportunity for shelter for creatures. So it kind of depends on how I'm feeling about whether I want to berate myself or feel good about what I'm doing.
I'm with you.
I didn't want to set my my herbaceous perennials up for a hard frost that they couldn't handle if that was somehow helping them. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, they should be fine.
That sounds good. And Don, I have a thought about garlic. Mm-hmm. I am a relatively new garlic grower. I just grown it for a couple seasons now, and I have had good success. So I guess all I can pass on is anecdotal. I have had good success. I just checked my bag of garlic. I've got a recycled onion bag that I've got my bulbs in, and I would say they're as firm as they have ever been. Like I haven't lost any quality that I can see. I did do a little bit of researching in the fall to find out what am I supposed to do with all these garlics now that I've dug them up. And a couple of tips that I did that maybe made a difference. I left the stalks on like forever. I think I just cut them off like 2 weeks ago. Like the growing stalk.
Yep, I did read that. Yeah, and that's why a lot of the Italian folks braided them.
Right, and I didn't get fancy in braiding. I'm not clever enough to figure out how to do that. I just pull the leaves off, left the stalk on, and I also put them. I did tie them together in groups of 10 or 12 layers so I could hang. It's easier to handle, and then I hung them in my crawl space.
Okay.
Because I had come across some information that suggested a cool, dry place, and it's tricky to find a cool, dry place in July.
It is. Yeah.
It's not hard to find dry, but it's hard to find cool. And so I don't know. I'm not sure if they respond the same as onions. If drying onions in the sun is a good thing, I'm not sure if that's a good thing for garlic. But they went in my car. I put them kind of like, kids used to have mitten strings, strings that tie two mittens together. They wouldn't lose them.
I still do.
The good plan, actually. Yeah, children and older people should have mitten.
That's right.
So I tied a string so that I could have two tied bundles of garlic balance each other, and I just had nails in my crawl space, and I hung them there.
Perfect.
Until I went down and I grabbed a stalk when I wanted to get a head of garlic, and then I would say it would be probably just before Christmas that I took them down from there and put them in a paper bag, and they lived in my crawl space in a paper bag. Nothing else done to them. And then just a couple weeks ago, I cut the stalks off and threw them into this netted bag, and they're still living in the crawl space. So I don't know, maybe they're kind of like cave dwellers. They like to be in dark.
Well, I'm hoping Dawn is listening, because I'll tell you, we were discussing this the other day, and I said I'll try and find out. And Pam, that sounds like great information. I don't have a crawl space, but we do have the odd place. I was going to build a root cellar, actually, and I didn't do that. I was going to build it under my greenhouse shed, but I moved so much dirt out of my backyard, I just didn't feel like having another 5 yards to pull out. So anyway, we're going to have to take a short break here, Pam, but we really appreciate your call, always.
No worries. Okay,
Thank you, dear.
Okay.
Calling.
Bye-bye. And we're going to do that. We're going to take a short break, and we are going to be back with more AM 1150 Garden Show. Notice how I'm remembering that legal thing. Can I just pause? Because I used to jump right in, and I get heck from the powers that be. Anyway, 250-862-2525. We probably got about 10 minutes of garden show left here for you, and we can answer your question in that time lot for sure. And we have been chatting gardening. Coming up pretty soon, Ken, another month or so, or a couple of months maybe, dormant spray time. I'm a big fan of the old-fashioned dormant oil lime sulfur. I mean, a lot of folks it isn't as popular or whatever as it used to be, but I'm telling you, I've had really good success on roses, on grapes, on lots of my plants, to ward off some of the overwintering insects and diseases. And I honestly believe, I have no more leafhopper on my grapes, and they were going up my nose for a while there. And since I started doing 2 or 3 sprays of lime sulfur dormant oil on my grapes, I haven't had any of that. Now, it might be coincidence, I don't know, but
it's timing.
Not scientific. But
I think you've got the timing down right, and that's like with anything to do with insects and insect management, is you have to have your timing.
Well, timing is very important. It's just like Kathy has joined us. Good morning, Kathy.
Hello, how are you today?
We're well, thank you. Thanks for joining the show.
My friend has one of those large leaf split philodendron plants, and it has the long tendrils that sends down, for water, and it's just loaded with them. She wondered if it's possible to cut them off.
Yeah, they're air roots, and they're used like that plant in the wild is a vine that climbs up trees and things, and it uses those air roots to attach to the tree. So it roots right into the surface of the tree often, and they just go crazy when they go up a big tree or something. So they can be snipped off, but the plants, it's sort of part of their natural physiology. I don't think they really act as too much of a, I don't think they really bring in water much. They must have more than one use, but their main use is attaching to objects. So, I would say that you could always remove a few for sure, and consider training them up a post or up a branch. If you can find a beautiful branch.
Well, right now she has it in a very small pot, and she wants to transplant it, but she said it looked ugly with all those things on. So she lives in Burnett, and I said, hey, the AM 1150 has the garden show on every Saturday. I'll phone and ask.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it wouldn't hurt it for sure, but. Just keep that in mind. It is a vine. It wants to climb.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the call.
Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye now. And
remember,
now,
that people can tune in on the internet for the show here.
Kathy, you can remind your friend that she can get in on the internet easily. And sometimes the signal does go up to Vernon and down to Penticton. We have Sandy on line 2. Good morning, Sandy.
Hi, there's a couple other things I heard now.
Okay.
More goodies.
Your ears are hurting.
I get whitefly very bad, too. And I find that if I leave them right till just bud out, like just when they break bud, I only have to do one spray.
And what plant was that again, sorry?
The grapes.
Yeah, the grapes, yes.
And I only do one spray, and it works just fine, so save yourself some work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, but I'm also the mildew situation with the lime sulfur helps, too. So, I as Ken said, the timing is so important. So, I just...
You usually wait, I think, is one of the things you do, right?
Yeah. I wait till I see something pushing, And Sandy, you mentioned whitefly. It's actually...
Well, the leaf hoppers.
Leaf hoppers, yeah.
I couldn't breathe in my grapes either. You hold your breath, put the sprinkler in, and run.
Yeah.
So with this garlic that's not holding up properly, if you peel it all and chop it and put it in ice cube trays with just a little bit of water,
okay,
you can freeze it and just drop a cube into whatever you're doing, and you won't lose your garlic that way.
Wow, there's a tip. I hope Donna's listening to that.
Yeah, good tip.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate the call.
Bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Yeah, good tip.
See, that's what awesome. We learn stuff on the garden show. And that's the beauty over the years, many years, almost 40 years now that we've been on the air. And, I've learned a lot, and so have you. And I've learned a lot from you and back and forth here, too. But, the garden show is very, very, like, just, as I've often said, use the analogy, talking with your neighbor over the back fence. Basically, just chatting over the back fence about your garden, about things, and asking each other questions and whatnot. So we're getting down to the waning moments of today's garden show. This is show, actually show number 1779. Pretty, at some point we're going to hit 2,000 shows, Ken.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
amazing. That's incredible.
I was going to mention one more time, we are having our seminars, our webinars starting today, and they're going to be happening right through the season, right into spring, all kinds of gardening topics, and you can just pick them up online. So you can go to growercoach.com and go into the Learning tab up on the far left side and click on Webinars, and you can check out the different classes. Today we're doing Right Plant, Right Place. It's all about landscaping and reducing the maintenance in the garden. And, it's going to be a good one. Starts at 1 o'clock. You can still sign up anytime. All you have to do is go on and click on the buttons.
You mentioned the garden show, and you get a discount or what? No, just kidding.
There's no human involved in that part of it.
That's right. Okay, well, we're getting to the point now. I think it is time for the tips and plants of the week. Well, my tip is to make sure you clean any used containers you use for you planting your seedlings, or your seeds, okay? You can use that 10% bleach solution to clean them out quite nicely. Plant of the week. My plant of the week is the prayer plant, and it's named prayer plant because in the daytime it is kind of flat, and at night it holds its leaves up like it's praying. So there you go.
Very nice. I also have a tip and a plant this week. And my tip of the week is that remember to go to growercoach.com and check out the webinars, as I was just mentioning. And the classes start today, and they run typically every weekend right through until spring, until April, I believe. And so check out what we have and participate in a couple webinars. They're fun and easy to do. All right, my plant of the week this week is the Epiphyllum oxypetalum, which is the beautiful, huge, white flowering orchid cactus that blooms at night and is pollinated by bats in the wild. And if you want to have a look at this beautiful creature, I have one of them at home, and I've videotaped it, and I put it on YouTube. So it's there for you to check out. You just go to Grower Coach on YouTube, and you can see it there, and it says it's a beautiful mass of blooms. You can't miss it. It's easy to find. Check it out. Remember to check growercoach.com.
Okay, and we're going to do the Shigo quote of the week, and it's a long one here. So, phloem is a transport tissue where energy containing substances dissolved in liquids move from leaves toward non-woody roots. Xylem is a transport tissue where elements essential for life and other substances moves in liquids from non-woody roots towards the leaves. So one goes up and one comes down. Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank, on behalf of Ken and I want to thank Ariel, Andrew, Stuntman Steve, Sally, Dan, Sandy, Dennis, Addie, Mary, Pam, Kathy, and Sandy again for joining us on The Garden Show. It's always important. You make the show. The listeners and the callers make the show. And Ken, I am glad to say, well, not glad to say, happy to say we can carry on with our day now. You've got your webinars going on. I got a couple of things I've got to do. And we'll do that. And then next week, we'll be back again with more AM 1150 Garden Show.